So this section is 3.3 and it is Finding Intercepts. So if you look at this particular graph here, you can see that we have an intercept here, which is the y-intercept because it's on the y-axis. And then we have another intercept which is called the x-axis intercept, or the x-intercept, which is on the x-axis. And so these are 2 points that are usually pretty important when we're solving word problems or any type of real-world problem. But here's the definition for x and y-intercept if you're finding them. So it's a point where a graph intersects the x-axis. We call that the x-intercept. And to find an x-intercept, we just assume that y is 0, because if you look, y is 0 at this particular point at 4, 0. And then when you find a point where a graph intersects the y-axis is called the y-intercept. So to find the y-intercept, we let x equal 0 in the equation to solve for y, because we see right here when we're finding the y-intercept, x is 0. And no matter where we look, it's that way. And so here's a general thing that I like to point out to students is that if we're trying to find the x-intercept and we look at a graph, and if we just draw a random line, okay, here's my line, this is where the x-intercept is. We don't know what x is at that point, but we always know what y is. Y is 0, because 0 for y is always on the x-axis. And so no matter where I draw my line, okay, here's the x-intercept, and that's still x, 0. If I go the other direction, here is the x-intercept. And so again, I don't know what x is, but I do know what y is. And so that's basically why we say y equals 0 when we're finding the x-intercept. If we're looking at the y-intercept, we look at a graph again. Right? And if we draw a line, here's my line. Here is the y-intercept. Okay, I don't know what y is, but I sure know what x is. It is 0. And so if I draw another line, I have a y-intercept here. I don't know what y is, but I sure know what x is. It is 0. And so that's a generalization that you should be aware of, so that when you're solving equations for x and y intercepts, you can assume that x is 0 when I'm finding the y-intercept, and y is 0 when I'm finding the x-intercept. Okay, so let's look at a table. So we're going to use a table to find the intercepts. So I have a table. Here's x and y, and let's say that the x is at -2, -1, 0, and 1, and that y is going to be, well, let's say we don't know what that is, and we're given an equation like x minus y equal to -1. Okay, so if I put in -2 here for x, if I move it over, it makes it +2, so that gives me 1, but then we divide by a negative, so that gives me a -1. And then if I do -1, that makes it +1 here, which is 0. Okay, so that's going to be 0. Okay, and then if I put 0 in, that makes it -1, but then it becomes +1. If I put 1 in, that's -1, that's -2, so that makes it +2. So by looking at my table, I can find my x and y intercept. So here is my first intercept. This one is going to be the x intercept because y is 0. So this is my x intercept. And then here's my other intercept, where 0, 1, which is going to be my y-intercept. So you can see right away that we can find the x and the y-intercept just by looking at a table. Okay? And so let's take a look again at using intercepts to graph lines. So once I know these, I can easily graph this equation because I know the x and the y-intercept. So negative 1, 0 is here, and then 1, 0, 1 is here. So I now have 2 points. I can actually draw my line, and this is what my graph looks like. So I can quickly graph lines when I'm given 2 points. And so x and y intercepts are easy to do. So let's do another problem like that. Let's say it is 2x minus 6y equal to 12. Okay, I'm going to find the x-intercept, which means that y is 0. So I put that in the equation. 2x minus 6 times 0 equal to 12. And so I get 2x equal to 12. Now I'm going to divide by 2, and I get x equal to 6. And so now I know it's 6, 0, which is my x-intercept. And then I can find my y-intercept, which is where x is 0. So now I do 2 times 0 minus 6y equal to 12. So that's negative 6y equal to 12. So divide by a negative 6. And so y is negative 2. And so now I know my y-intercept is 0, negative 2. So now I could literally graph these. I'll do that way up here. How about that? Okay. That way I don't have to clear a screen. So now I can do my x-intercept, which is at 6, 0. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, and then the other one's at 0, negative 2. Here's the other one. So now I have 2 points. Now I can draw my line. Okay, and so here is the line for 2x minus 6y equal to 12. So these are just other ways to find the x and the y-intercept and to be able to graph it. And so it's just a real quick way to doing such a thing, because before we would have to plot a bunch of points, and now we can just plot 2 points. That's because we know the x and the y-intercept.